Hi, guys, it's Dr. George, and I don't know what is happening, but for the last 2 weeks, my lives, my prompts that telling you I'm going live has dropped. So we're working from 7:40, so I'm 10 minutes late tonight. So I know those of you that join in, you know to wait because Dr. George will be here unless she cancels. Now I have a very special guest backstage, is what we like to call it, and she's the author of the book. Now, if you go to the Tucked in Tuesdays page, it should say it's live now. And if you share that link, it'll go through. So, hello, Ape, Ari, and Pop Pop. I actually look for you guys every week, every single week. So glad to have you. So, I'm going to bring out the author. And Mr. Pancho, I guess I can call you. Your children, I think they'll really like this book, even though I never read it, but I'm pretty good judge of character, the kind of books you like for your kids. So at this time, I'll bring out Miss Spears. So hi, Miss Spears. How are you?
I am awesome. How are you?
Great. And thanks for working with me through this technological mishap
We are,
that we had.
we are so used to it.
Yes. So did you get the link to share?
I did, and I'm going to share with some folks right now.
Perfect. So
Yeah.
she's sharing, and if you guys can share, I'll go ahead and read the books. And if you please share the link. So I'm going to go to my personal page because that's how I see who's on my page. Sharing. And Miss Henley loved it. So hi, Miss Fehrenbacher and Miss Scott. How are you? So the book tonight is called Be by Niki Spears. The lady right. Oh, it's so opposite. I still can't get it right. This is very hard. So her.
Bam. Fifth,
Yeah, we got to do the elbow. It's kind of hard. But this is the author of the book, B, and permission granted by Miss Spears herself. So, Miss Spears, could you tell us what inspired you to write the book before we even get into it?
Well, my Baylor books are about my granddaughter, first of all. So they're, named after my granddaughter, Baylor. And what inspired me to write this book is just one night I was thinking about, what can we do to change the world? And so I don't want to give the book away, but once you start to read it, I think everybody out there is a world changer, and there are things that we can do to make the world a better place. And I think if we start talking to kids early about that, their wheels start spinning, and they start thinking, so what problems can I solve? What can I do to be a world changer?
Love that. And hi, Miss Jackson. My dyslexia teacher is on there on my personal page.
Hello.
So we'll start reading. This is, remember, scholars, this is the first time that I read the book, so my pages may be stuck together, but I've never read it before. And I purposely do that so I can get the same feeling that you get when you read it for the first time. And if I mess up on a word, I'll ask Miss Spears to help me with the word. So here we go. B by Niki Spears, illustrated by Deveo. Is it Deveo?
Uh-huh.
Deveo Studio. So it's a little page there. All right. Mr. Pancho said he's listening with his granddaughters. So
Yay.
I knew it was a good match. There's a page in the front that she tells a little story. And I'll let you read that part, Miss Spears.
Oh, okay. So my dedication page, I'll read that. This book is dedicated to my beautiful parents. So my parents are also a part of this book, Lee and Mary Thomas. May the story be a reminder of the influence you've had on my story. Love you to the moon and back.
Love that. It's dedicated to your parents. And so she has another little bit on the next page talking about her series of books, but we'll get right in. And it says, join us in supporting young children and becoming positive world changers. And there's a handprint that says B. I'm sure that has meaning. Hi, Miss Kelly. How are you? Baylor loved visiting her great-grandparents' house in the country. Although she did not have many friends there, she found plenty of things to do. She enjoyed helping Papa feed the cows, spending time with Rocky, the German shepherd, and chasing the chickens that move freely around the yard. And thank you for showing those pictures. What Baylor loved most was listening to Papa's stories. Every evening, Papa and Granny would sit in their giant rocking chairs on the front porch as Baylor sat anxiously waiting to hear one of Papa's fascinating tales. Baylor didn't know if these stories were true or made up, but she delighted in the sound of Papa's husky voice and the way he would change his tone to match the person he was speaking about. Granny also seemed to enjoy these stories because her eyes would be glued to his every word, as if she were hearing Papa speak for the first time. Tonight, Papa's face was more serious as he talked about one of his African American heroes, Rosa Parks. Occasionally, Papa would tell stories about strong Black women who helped to change the world because he wanted Baylor to know what she could be, that she could be whatever she wanted to be. Papa told the story of how years ago, Black folks couldn't sit next to white folks on the bus. He shared how one day Rosa Parks refused to follow this rule and would not give up her seat to a white passenger on a segregated bus. What does segregated mean, Papa? Baylor interrupted, leaving Papa stumbling to find the words that would fit a proper definition. Racial segregation is when one race is separated from another race, Granny said, chiming in to say, Papa, back in the day, Black folks couldn't even drink out of the same water fountains nor attend the same schools as white folks, Granny added. Hello, Miss Procraca. Hello. Hello, Miss Betty. I was waiting on you. Why not? Baylor asked. Baylor couldn't imagine not being able to sit next to her friend Melissa on the school bus. Believe it or not, Baylor, some folks fear people that don't look like them, Papa stated. Baylor thought about her friends and how different they were and how much she enjoyed playing with all of them. After several seconds of silence, Baylor asked, why wouldn't Miss Parks give up her seat, Papa? Miss Parks had worked all day and was tired, Papa continued. But that was not the only reason she refused to give up her seat, Papa said. Hello, Vera. There was another reason. Miss Parks wouldn't move to the back of the bus that day, Baylor. What do you think it was? Granny asked. Because she didn't want to sit with all the boys? Baylor asked in the most serious voice. Hi, Grimble family. Baylor knew that all the boys on her school bus loved to sit at the back of the bus and play games. Papa and Granny looked at one another and shared a playful laugh. Miss Parks was tired of giving in, and she wanted things to change, Granny said. Because of her bravery, Miss Parks was later awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, Papa said with a proud look on his face. Baylor, because of people like Rosa Parks, Black folks are able to live like everyone else. No more segregation, Papa said as he slapped both hands on his lap and ended the story. Oh, I got to do that part then. No more segregation, Papa said as he slapped both hands on his lap and ended the story. Okay, time for bed, young lady, Granny announced as she pushed herself up from the giant rocker. Granny leaned over and kissed Baylor's forehead. Granny, can I be like Rosa Parks and change the world? Baylor asked. Of course you can, baby girl. You can be whatever you choose to be, Granny said proudly. Hi, Alexa. And so they draw this little hand with B in it. Now for your assignment. And if you're a scholar or a grown-up and you're listening, go ahead and draw this hand. We're going to do it too. Now for your assignment, Granny said with excitement. Granny loved to give Baylor special assignments after one of Papa's stories. Granny turned to an empty page in Bailey's hand hug notebook and wrote the word B. What does B mean, Granny? Baylor asked. You said you wanted to change the world, right? Well, think about the qualities you need to be in order to change the world, Granny whispered. Pay attention to the qualities you see in others that you think you need to be and write them down in your notebook, Granny said, tucking Baylor into bed. The next morning, Baylor woke up extra early and got dressed, excited about her new assignment. Baylor, you want to ride into town with me this morning? Granny yelled from the kitchen. Yes, ma'am, Baylor responded. Baylor quickly grabbed her hand hug notebook. She could not wait to look for the qualities in others that would help her change the world. Granny loved shopping at their local HEB because everything she needed was all in one place. Thank you, Texas, for HEB, by the way. As
Sure.
Granny entered the crowded parking lot, she turned on her car's signal to settle into an open parking space. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, a red car quickly took the spot before Granny could even park. Granny shook her head in disbelief and drove on to find another parking spot. Baylor stared down at her hug notebook. She knew that this was not a quality that would help her change the world. When Granny and Baylor entered the store, they noticed a little boy crying with his head buried in his lap. Are you okay, sweetheart? Granny asked in a sweet voice. I want my mommy, the little boy said. We can help you find her. I'm sure she's worried about you too, Granny said. Granny took the little boy's hand and guided him to the front of the store. Tommy, a woman yelled as she ran past Granny and pulled the little boy up into her arms. The woman took her little boy and left the store without even saying thank you. Hi, Mr. Cooper. Baylor knew this was not a quality that would help her change the world. Hi, Quinn. Hello. Before leaving the market, Granny allowed Baylor to choose 3 of her favorite foods to add to the shopping cart. Baylor grabbed chocolate chip waffles, fruity cereal, and fresh strawberries. I'm getting all these hellos. Hi, Sarah. Sarah, Niki, Sarah said hello. And hi,
Hello.
Lillian Brown. They're all saying hello to you. Thank you,
Hello.
Granny, Baylor said as they approached the checkout line. One more stop, Granny said, placing the last bag in the cart. Granny and Baylor would often visit the old soda shop during their trips into town. They always made the best ice cream sandwiches. When they entered the old soda shop, the server was so busy looking at his cell phone, he didn't even notice Granny and Baylor walk in. I'll have a hot fudge sundae, Baylor said, trying to get the server's attention. And I'll have a banana split, said Granny. We're out of bananas, the server responded, still looking down at his phone. Just make that 2 hot fudge sundaes then, Granny said. The server handed them the sundaes, never looking up to make eye contact. Baylor knew this was not a quality that would help her change the world. Betty, Dr. George, I invited family and friends to join in tonight. Great. Thanks so much, Miss Betty. Thank you. Baylor and Granny enjoyed their Sundays at one of the picnic tables outside. They talked about old times as Granny shared stories about Baylor's mom and grandmother when they were young girls visiting the old soda shop. Baylor enjoyed Granny's stories just as much as Papa's. When they made it back to the car, Granny noticed Baylor staring inside her notebook. What's the matter, baby girl? Granny asked. Remember, you asked me to look for qualities in others that would help me change the world? I sure do, Granny answered. Well, no one had any qualities. I need to change the world, Baylor said. Need more principals like her. Thank you, Felicia. Thank you, Miss Simpson. And Miss Jackson. Hello, Mrs. Duke. So, hello, Mrs. Duke, if you're on here. And yes, Mama, they do. Oh, thank y'all so much. You sure about that, Granny asked? Yes. Everyone was rude, Baylor said. Okay, let's think about all the people we met today. I believe we can learn something from all of them, Granny said. First, that was the guy that took our parking spot. Remember him, Granny asked? How could I forget? He was so rude, said Baylor. Okay, but what did you learn from him? Granny asked. I learned that I don't want to be like him, Baylor said. What do you want to be instead? Granny asked. I want to be fair. It wasn't right that he took your parking spot, Granny, said Baylor. Okay, so you want to be fair, Granny repeated. What about the mother of the little boy who was lost in the grocery store? Granny asked. The mom didn't even thank you for helping her son. I would have been more grateful, Baylor said. Look at you. You're discovering all the qualities you need to be to change the world, Granny said. Baylor was still a little confused as she stared down at the word be in her hand. Hug notebook. And what did you think about the ice cream server who stared at his cell phone the whole time? Granny asked. He wasn't very kind. He even rolled his eyes at us, said Baylor. Okay, but what do you want to be instead? Granny asked. I want to be kind, Granny, said Baylor. And a prayer for you, Miss Duke, from Miss Procraca. And Miss Jackson said, I love this story. I do too, Miss Jackson. So she starts writing in that hand. Baylor, think about Miss Rosa Parks. She didn't change the world because she was like everybody else, said Granny. She changed the world because she decided to be different. Baylor smiled proudly and quickly opened her hand, hugged notebook, and wrote 3 words: fair, grateful, and kindness. Remember, just because you don't see good traits in others doesn't mean you can't be those things yourself, said Granny. When they arrived home, Baylor wrapped her arms around Granny's neck and gave her a big hug. What have I done to deserve that? Granny asked. Granny, you are fair, grateful, and kind. You are changing the world. Now it's your turn. Ready to change the world. Look for all the qualities in others that will help you make a difference in the world and write them in the hand hug. Remember, just because you don't see good traits in others does not mean that you cannot be those things yourself. The end. And I gotta love the illustrations from Miss Quinn, and Miss Betty said, always be kind. So
Always.
with this book, I read it for the first time, and it was a lot packed in here. So I always do my takeaway at this point, okay? But before I do that, what inspired you to write this particular book, B?
B. Okay, so I have a thank you so much for reading. It's great when you can hear someone else's voice take on the words of your book. So thank you for that. I wrote a book titled The Beauty Underneath the Struggle, Creating Your Bus Story. Each chapter begins with the word be. And I just realized how powerful that word is. And I said, you know what, that book, that needs to be a standalone. And so I decided to do that as a children's book. Okay. But it's definitely a book for adults as well.
Love it. So you see these comments, and Miss Grumble, we're about to say where you can get the book. Hello, Bambi, and hello, Miss Fehrenbacher. Miss Fehrenbacher said, love the discovery. So
Yay.
tell us where you can purchase the book, because they want to know that now, because they want to go and buy it.
It's on Amazon. So that's where you can find the book. I think it's on barnesandnoble.com as well. So yes.
Okay. So the big takeaway, I always like to tell the authors, and Nikki's been waiting for this. She's like, I can't wait to see your perception.
Drum roll.
This is drum roll. So I've never had the same perception as an author. This author's purpose. Sometimes it's different, but as a reader, this is what I got. We're so busy as educators focusing on, I won't say all, but educators tend to focus on what's wrong because we're fixers. And we don't really focus on what's right until the what's wrong starts overpowering the what's right. Then we try to make the what's right come out. So my biggest takeaway from this book is, even when something bad happens to you, there's a lesson, a valuable lesson. In every experience in life, whether it's good or bad, there's a takeaway. It doesn't have to be the hand, but there's something you take from every situation to make you better. That's my takeaway from the book. I got snaps.
That is beautiful.
So what is yours, Niki?
Well, it's similar to what you just said. A lot of times, especially now in these times, guys, we are so focused on what's wrong that we miss the blessings. We miss the miracles. We miss the ways that we can change the world. So just because you don't see things going the way they should, ask yourself, what can I do to create a better world? What can I do to create a better life for myself? So just because other people aren't being kind or not being grateful or being rude doesn't mean that we have to be those things. We can be whatever we want to be.
Love it. Love it, Nikki. So your favorite part of the book. What's your favorite part?
You know what I always love the end because I never know when I'm writing how it's going to end. So it always surprises me. So when you get to the part where she's seeing all these things going on and she has nothing to write inside her hand hug, which is another book, by the way, that we're going to have to read at another time. The hand hug has a meaning, that little hand hug. But she gets there and she's like, I don't have anything to write. And all of a sudden she goes back and she looks at all these events that were to her bad, but she was able to look for, like you said, the lesson. And so that was the most powerful part of the book, is teaching kids early to look for the lesson.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Hi, Stephanie and Miss Thomas. Hello. So my favorite part of the book was Granny never changed what she saw in the other person. Like Granny could have said, that man wasn't nice. Granny left that up to every instance with Granny is my favorite part, because as adults, we want to tell children what our perception is. We want to say, you see that man cut me off? Don't you ever do that. Granny never did that. And that's why we take the creativity and thinking for kids. We think for kids. But that child was allowed to think for themselves in every situation. And Granny let her decide those people were bad, but also there was good that came from it. So I love that freedom to think. That's the parts with Granny. I need a book just about Granny, because Granny's the real. Granny is the real. Grandpa is the great story.
That's my mom. So you're right. I think initially when I started writing the book, I wrote this book in like one night. I got up and I had this vision to write this. So I started writing the book. And initially, Granny was not nice when that person cut her off. She's like most of us who want to scream and say not so nice words. But then as I started thinking about what we wanted Baylor to learn, because Baylor represents all the children in the world, that wouldn't have been a good example for her. So I made Granny into a great example, kind of like a teacher asking questions. But what can you do? That's what teachers do. We constantly ask, students. We don't just, give it to them, but we want them to discover. And that's what Granny was able to do in this story.
I absolutely love it. This is a great book. It could be purchased on barnesandnobles.com and Amazon. Now, when I went look for B on Amazon, I could not find it.
You know why? You have to put in Niki Spears. This is my latest book. Okay, so it's not going to pop up automatically. But if you put B and then Niki Spears, Nikispears, then it should pop up along with my other books.
Okay, because I'm an educator, I'm going to share my screen real quick.
Okay.
And I'm going to show. So let's see if I can get this to work. Chrome tab, Amazon. All right. So you can see my Amazon. Can you see my Amazon, Nikki?
Yep, I see it.
Perfect. All right. So I'm going to put in Nikki.
Or it's Niki.
Say it again.
One K. Niki. Spears.
And there it pops up.
Yeah.
And there it is. So while we're there, let's talk about your other books.
Okay. So I have Kindness is Contagious too. Now that's a special book because that includes my little nephew. You'll notice I have my family in my books. So this is a book. My nephew is there with my grandbaby. But my first book is The Hand Hug. And so that's why I reference The Hand Hug a lot in the B book. And you'll see it mentioned throughout many of my books. So yeah, The Hand Hug is a great book. And guess what? I have a song to go with that one, Miss George, which I'm going to have to share with you when we read that book. We have to play the Hand Hug song. It's really
Okay.
cool.
I love it. And then there's
That's
a
it. I
curriculum.
think there's a curriculum guide to go with the Hand Hug. So teachers love that because after they read it, there are lessons there that they can teach and reinforce.
And then you have an adult book. Let's not leave us out.
Okay. The Beauty Underneath the Struggle. That's my other B book. Now it's not titled B, but each chapter begins with B. Be responsible. All the things we need to be to create a great life for ourselves. So be responsible, be aware, be open, be grateful, believe, be courageous, be awesome, and ultimately be you.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And
Yeah,
I
I'm
was
the B
glad I
lady.
put it up there because visual, I'm a visualist.
Yeah.
So thank you all so much for joining me. Parting words, Miss Spears.
Hey, you can be whatever you want to be.
And that's so right tonight, Miss Spears. That is so. I was sharing something with Miss Spears, right? Look at this, Miss. Look what you got, Miss Betty saying. Just
Oh,
be.
just be. I love that, Miss
Just be.
Betty.
So,
Just be.
guys that are on here, if you can miss the Grimbos, every Papa, and Avery and Pop, if you want to do the hand hug and inbox the picture to
That's
Tucked In
great.
Tuesdays or the Homer Drive page, if you want to send it in Messenger, I will share them so that Miss Nikki can see that her
I
book
would
is
love
already
to do your hand
changing
hug.
lives. So, and buy the book. That'll really change your life. Make sure you buy the book and share this. And guys, my parting words is every day and every single Tuesday, if nobody else tells you they love you, Dr. George does, or should I say, if nobody else tells you, Dr. George loves you. I love you guys so much. And remember, have a great night on purpose, sleep well on purpose. And I'm going to quote Tabitha Brown. And if you don't go up messing up anybody else's. So she said, love this and good night. So with that, Miss Betty, good night, guys. Thank you so much.